This project was bought by a client for £70,000. Let's show you around. So this is Project Queen's Road. Now, excuse the echo, but basically been bought for £70,000. The refurb is just over £35,000. So full renovation on this one. The end value expected once renovated is about £140,000 with a rent over £800 per calendar month. I'm going to show you the project. I'm going to show you the idea of how we're going to approach the renovation and what the exit is. So this is a 3-bed terrace property in South Wales. We only actually work and operate in South Wales, so we know the area very, very well. So this client actually reached out to us. It was a sibling of a previous client. So their sibling sister reached out to us, worked with us, was happy with what we were doing. Now their sister has now bought this project, just completed on. Refurb's going to start very soon. It's a full renovation, so I'll break down what the refurb entails, the details, the schedule of works, the breakdown, room by room by room. So really looking forward to this one. The end result is to make it a buy-to-let. We did approach this to say, are we going to flip it or make it a buy-to-let? The beauty with these sort of projects, with having a full renovation project, is the whole goal of this is to, as a buy-to-let, to have equity on the back end or to flip it. And the reason I say that is you want to do one or the other, but make both available. So with this one, we're expecting around about 30k of equity on the back end to be available, which means that if you chose to sell it, then there's still profit to be made as an exit. Like let's say, for example, we've spent 4 months renovating it, or 3 to 4 months renovating, and the back end, there was a market crash, COVID 2.0, and there's a problem. At least you could sell it and still make some profit. This is the value of having exits. So this one is very strong numbers wise, which meant the exits are really strong. So the first thing I want to point out is the windows are actually really good in this one. So a big cost saver for the client is windows. Something to keep an eye on your renovations. Windows are very expensive, so just keep a close eye on your windows in case they are needed. If they were metal or anything that wasn't plastic, PVC double glazed, I would highly consider changing it for EPC regulations and whatever. So yeah, basically everything else is going to be done. So windows are staying, new flooring, full plaster throughout, so ceiling and walls being plastered, because the best way to do it is to plaster the walls and ceiling, then paint over it, and it insulates the property, has a really nice fresh finish, and it just looks clean. And what I'll do also is I'll put a link in the description of some projects that we've completed on that show, obviously this video is to show what the project's like now, and you'll see how worn it is, how dated, and just how not livable it is. And then I'll put a link in the description of some projects that we've actually finished on recently that give context as to the standard that we go for on the back end. So be sure to check out the description, which has examples of post renovation projects. So you can kind of compare the projects between what should it look like before and what should it look like after. So let's go. Here's the corridor, obviously, on the ground floor. So the front door's actually staying, so that's great, good cost saver. Flooring throughout has been changed. It's very dated, like it's usable, but very dated and very horrible. Wallpapered walls, want to basically rip it all off, plaster it and paint it, have a nice fresh white finish on the back end. Fuse board, electrics, basically full rewire throughout. You'll see throughout the lighting isn't the best. It's okay, but it isn't the best. So if you've got the budget to carry out a full renovation, it's always best to consider at least doing the electrics, because in these sort of properties, typically the reason they're so dated and horrible is because they're very old. You know, they haven't been touched in a while. So maybe the previous tenant or landlord was very old and didn't want to spend the money. The point I'm getting to is, therefore the electrics have just been left there for the past 30 years, usable, but from an investment point of view, you want to make sure that you're spending money now to future-proof it to a point. So you want to make sure it's as energy efficient as possible, which we can feed into later on, which is the EPC rating, which you want to be a C. But then in terms of just the electrics and longevity, to make sure your tenants and you as the investor are safe, and your electrical certification is okay every single year, or every 3 to 5 to 10 years. You want to make sure that if you can, I highly recommend replacing the electrics if you're renovating anyway. The whole idea of this, spend the money today, make the investment today so that your tenants and you have longevity, so you can set and forget. Spend the money today, let it out, refinance it, and just leave it alone. That's the best way to do these. And even if you're selling, it's really nice to have new fresh electrics in, because it's just a bit nicer for the people coming in, because they want to make it their home. Whether it's a tenant or a landlord or a buyer coming on the back end, they want to come in and make it feel like their home. And brand new electrics always had a bit of a nice touch. Even though you're not going to see them, you're going to have a bit of peace of mind. So that's really cool. So yeah, brand new electrics up here. Obviously box it in as well, make it nice and blend it in, put it that way, blend it in, because you'll have, this would all be really nice and fresh. Obviously you got the tiles up there we'll take out as well. We don't like plastic ceilings or whatnot. So, sorry, polystyrene in that sense. So box that, ceilings there, plaster it all, new electrics, that's pretty much just of here, and obviously new light fitting as well. Corridor number 2, bit darker in here, so bear with, but basically exact same approach, plastering throughout, flooring, new lights. Obviously with the full rewire we'll have new LED lighting anyway. Really important to make sure LED lighting is installed, because your LED lighting is going to help the energy efficiency of a property. It's going to be cheaper and help the efficiency for the electrics. We want to make sure that every property we're doing has an EPC rating of a C on the back end, because we expect by about 2029, the year 2029, for every rental property to require an EPC C rating. So it's important to get your electrics and your LED lighting installed now, basically. So just to future-proof it a little bit. All the other basics, obviously that's electrics again, but you'll see a trend here of a lot of this is very dated and horrible. It's a case of chopping things out where it's needed, plastering throughout, and then brand new electrics. Any Artex in the ceiling as well, getting that sorted just to kind of make sure it's a really nice finish on the back end. So you're almost guaranteeing your equity whether you want to sell or keep. So the boiler room, we're actually keeping this room. No, I'm kidding. So basically, bad joke, but basically, obviously this is very dated and horrible, but the boiler itself is actually staying, because that's actually quite good. So a good bit of a cost saver there. The radiators will be changed throughout, because they're just a bit dated and you know, they can be a bit fresher. But with Availlant, which is the brand of the boiler, by the way, with good quality boilers, if you don't need to change them, if they're, you know, brand new and they've got the warranty in there, heavily consider keeping them, because boilers are very expensive. Like, there's a bit of a balance in this between, if it's over 5 years old and it's not a good brand, common sense tells you to change it. Whereas if you've got a boiler that's about a year old, it's, you know, it's got your warranty, it's still in warranty, and it's a good brand and it's a good quality one, common sense tells you to keep it. You know, even if you're changing everything, you can still work around it. So basically, we're modernising all this and keep, you know, making all this nice and everything. Got holes in the wall and everything. All this is very simple to change, because it's well within the budget, which I'll go into the budget later on. But just freshen all this up to make it nice, so that when someone comes here, it just looks a bit more modern and a bit fresher, a bit nice and bright. But the actual boiler itself, if you don't need to change it, if it works and it's good quality, heavily consider keeping it, because why are you spending money on something that looks exactly like that anyway? The bathrooms are great value adders, and it's no difference here. So we're going to be making this really nice finish on the back end. The reason for doing that, kitchens and bathrooms add some of the highest amount of value to a property you can possibly add. So, as well as adding bedrooms actually, but just for keep this simple, if you've got a kitchen and bathroom and you want to maximize the value of a property but don't want to spend a fortune, making the kitchen and bathroom that extra little bit nicer, spending, you know, the grand or so on it, can really help, because it creates a wow factor, and the size and spec of a kitchen and bathroom really help the value of a property. So for context, if you go to a street in South Wales like we are here, every area has a ceiling, whether it's the market value of a property or the rental side to it. And if you've got a property on that street that's got a very basic kitchen and bathroom, then obviously it's going to be worth X amount. Whereas if you've got a property that's had, you know, another £2,000 spent on it, kitchen and bathroom, it's going to be hitting the ceiling price for that area. You know, you can't make it like £1 million property, for example, in this area, but you can increase it a little bit. And the whole idea of a renovation, especially from an investor point of view, is to spend £1 and increase the value by 3. So you want to have your money. There's no point in spending £1,000 on a refurb on a kitchen additional and have it increase the value by 1. It's to spend, you know, £1 or £2,000 and have it increased by 5 or 6. That's the reason these are great investments. because with part of equity at the start, we spend, and not a lot, but one of the most important prices to factor in on a refurb can be the bathroom for this exact reason. So just consider that. Yes, that's basically that. So basically, good sized kitchen, good sized bathroom, which means that we can change like for like. Shower, so good for a family. So if a family's coming here to rent out, they got the bathtub and the shower. They'll have the wash basin. Obviously, bear in mind, this is all gonna be ripped out. Like, I'm not talking as if we're gonna keep this. This is all be fully ripped out, brand new bathroom in here. But you can change like for like, because it's such a good size. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. But yeah, I mean, in terms of practicality, a family can come here, they can have their kids. The bathtub adds a bit of appeal because they can actually have the kids shower and all this kind of stuff. Standing showers are great, but if you can, it's always good to have a bathtub in a bathroom if possible, if the bathroom's big enough. But the rest is self-explanatory really. We're going to put new flooring down, plaster it all. Obviously you got the light hanging down here, rip all this out. This is all going to be completely renovated, brand new bathroom installed just before, I haven't made that very clear. But yeah, the windows as well, you can't see that on the camera, but the windows all in good condition, really happy with those. I genuinely am really happy the windows are good. They're all PVC, double glazed, PVC plastic double glazed windows, and they're in good condition. They look fresh, less than 5 years old. Really happy for the buyer for this one. So is the stairwell, I say the steps and the first floor landing pretty much. Very bread and butter. This we're gonna make higher. So banisters are quite important because they're more from a safety point of view. Obviously they are literally based upon someone falling down the stairs, right? So having this a bit higher, I tend to recommend getting them about this high, just in terms of like, you know, I think common sense gives you the answer there, doesn't it? Like you don't want someone leaning over. So we'll get this changed, get this replaced. But yeah, we don't want someone falling over afterwards basically. So I'm not too sure if I communicate that very well, but you get the point. Just make it a bit higher, changing that. Flooring, so new carpets. You'll see in every bedroom now, or well, at least one of them, 1 out of 3. We tend to stick to carpets in bedrooms and floors like this. It's cost effective. It's a really nice finish. And again, check our other videos for our post-refurb videos on the spec we go for. But thick, dark carpets are really nice. And it'll just have a whole fresh feel to it. Because if you've got all this plastered and painted over, so that'll look smooth, fresh, Artex, plastered, painted over, really nice finish and nice and bright. Then you've got dark carpets. It just has a bit of a wow factor to it. And it's very, very standard buy-to-let exit for us. Meaning that when we do our refurbs, that's the spec we go for. And it really helps us help the client maximize the project. Well, the project's end value, let's say. And the good thing to note is the spec we go for in the end isn't just for the value of the property, it's also for the actual rent we can expect. So because the main exit for this is a buy-to-let, they're going to refinance on a buy-to-let mortgage and rent it out to a tenant. You can actually you can try to charge the cap for the area. So for example, this one is over £800 per calendar month rental income expected. So we're going to test it 825. The idea isn't to be greedy with this. The idea is to help the location. We're turning these rundown properties into really nice modern homes. But in doing so, you're spending, an extra 5 to 6 to 7 grand on a refurb. And it's just to kind of respect the investor's time that they've put into it. They've put a lot of money into this, and therefore they can make it a really nice family home. So therefore we can naturally charge the ceiling rate for rent for the ceiling cap rate for the area. So therefore we'd expect the maximum possible rent. And this is how we work with investors from anywhere, because the yields in South Wales are so high, and yield indicates cash flow for a property. So if you've got a property that's worth 100 grand, we're buying for 100 grand, and then you rent out for like £900 per calendar month, you can see the sort of yield we're looking at. So I think we're looking at around about 9% typically in South Wales, which is very high. London's about 4%, so less than half. So South Wales is known for high yields because it's very cheap property and high rent because demand's so high here. Hence why we have a lot of people working with us pretty much. And this is a perfect example as a 3-bed large property that's on 3 floors. we're basically going for the maximum end value possible for a standard spec, for a standard rental spec, with a really nice finish on the back end. And from a rental point of view, we're making sure that the actual rent we can charge is as much as possible considering the cap for the area. Again, but the idea isn't to kind of be greedy and say, oh, all the locals are trying to price them out. The idea here is literally to just respect the investor's time, make it a really nice home so that someone could come here, make it their home as a tenant for the next 3 to 5, 10 years, and really love it, make it their family home. And it's really, to us, we see it as happening in the local area, because you can rent this out, but actually there's a few broken stairs as well, so you actually can't rent this out as it is. So we're literally turning uninhabitable homes into lovely family homes, and to us it makes us kind of proud, to be honest with you. So enough of my ramble, let's keep on with the project. Bedroom number 1, and the smallest room. That flashes, so bear with me if it flashes a bit more. Basically, you'll see the trend through the property. We're gonna completely rip the carpet out. We're gonna plaster over this, plaster over the ceiling, make it really nice. Windows, again, white PVC, they just need a good clean, simple as that, nothing more crazy. Yeah, so plastering, painting. The radiator in here is actually okay. We're gonna keep this one, not all of them, just this one. Well, a couple of them, but not all of them. You get what I'm saying. Light switches are going to change that. As part of the full rewire, it's all going to be changed. But the trend here is, again, nice thick dark carpets. We're going to have a white wall finish, new electrics, LED lighting on the back end, and it's just going to be a standard box room. What I would say is you'll notice that the 2 other bedrooms are a lot larger. So the rent we're going to charge will basically reflect that. Because if you've got, a 2-bed property or a 3-bed property in a box room, you're looking at a family, parents, kids, and toddler sort of thing, and your price point can reflect that, and also the value on the back end. You can reflect the market value you expect it to be worth on the back end by the type of property it is and the size of it. So for context, the reason that we believe this to be worth 140 grand on the back end once renovated is because we have sold comparables for location that are a similar size to this one, large property, 3 floors, same spec on the back end, and they've sold for between 135 to 145 on the back end, if not higher. So we've been a bit conservative with it, protects the actual investor in this case, and then, yeah, it allows us to get a good investment. Because at the end of the day, a property's value is valued by a valuer will come to a property, looking at the area, looking at the property, saying, okay, it's in this condition. They'll look online to say the property's it's this size, the square meterage of the property is X amount, for example, 70 square meters, for example. The condition is this. It's got a garage, it's got all these bits and bobs. This one hasn't, but it gives some context. This number of bedrooms, etc. Then they'll look at what has recently sold in the area that's similar to that, hence why it's called relevant comparables. And then basically, if you've got comparables that are similar standard, similar size, in the same location within about a quarter mile in the past year, they will use that as a relevant comparable to say, okay, that sold for 140, therefore we expect this property to be worth that. That is how official RICS valuers value a property, and it's really important to use that information, to use that method to value your own properties. A lot of people go to estate agents to get valuations in, and an estate agent hasn't necessarily been to the property, they don't know the area as much as they say they do. Estate agents are there to sell at the end of the day, whereas we work investors who want to build a portfolio, therefore we have to make sure the numbers are correct in order to keep building a portfolio. So I hope that makes sense, and hope it helps someone watching this to give some context on how to actually value a property. And if you want more context, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video to book in a call with us if you're looking to get involved in these sort of projects. The whole reason for us documenting these is to show people what we do, because we're doing this. I invest myself heavily in these in South Wales, and I basically help investors do the same thing alongside what I do, because we've got deals coming in, we've got the builders, solicitors, brokers, estate agents working with us anyway, and I basically help people build portfolios in South Wales or invest with us and we build a portfolio. So I'll get more into that later on. But the main thing is, if you want to get involved in these projects, check the descriptions of the video and book in a call with us, and then we'll see how we can help you. But let's keep it going. Bedroom number 2, I absolutely love this room. Why do I love this room? Because it's so damn big. And it's actually echoing. It's not huge, but space is really important. If you have a large room, you can maybe chop it in half, make 2 rooms out of it if it's big enough. Like, this isn't that big in terms of that respect, but at the end of the day, if you've got enough space in a bedroom, it gives you opportunities to look at adding bedrooms, look at seeing what you can do with it, have a bit of a wow factor, or have it as a large room, because if someone comes here, they see it as more practical. The bigger the space, the better, really. So just to factor that in. In terms of the refurb, it's a case of new flooring, same approach as before, not to bore you guys, but actually there is no Artex in this one. So this one's just gonna be paint, like paint the ceilings, paint the walls. New flooring, windows are actually okay. The radiator's actually okay. There's not actually that much to do up here in this exact bedroom, to be fair. New electrics on the walls, which you can't see. Obviously, new lighting as well, new light fittings. Not much to comment on this room, so let's go to the next one. So this is bedroom number 3, and it's not very clear by the camera angle, but this is actually a double bedroom, just by the size, and a very standard double bedroom. So bedroom number 1 was just a single room. Obviously, bedroom number 2 could be even a king size room, and then this one is a double room. Just basically on the basis of you can fit a double bed in here. There's no other reason besides that. Again, very large window, really happy about that. That's cool. New flooring, gonna paint. Radiators are actually okay, which is really cool. New electrics. Nothing to really say on this room apart from just making the flooring completely rip it out and put a new one down with carpet on. And then yeah, new electrics, and yeah, gonna make it LED lighting. But this is very self-explanatory. One thing I will note, which you can't really see on the camera, because we do a lot of investing in the valleys in Wales, in South Wales, the views from a lot of bedrooms can be absolutely stunning. And I'll chuck the view on in a second, but the view is absolutely gorgeous, and you can kind of see the whole valley. And imagine in summer, if someone wakes up in this room and they got the sun coming in, it's all nice and warm, and just, you can see the whole valley side. Honestly, people really love Wales for its views, and it's not a surprise. Also guys, one thing to note is your roofs. So you want to make sure the roofs are actually in good condition, no broken tiles or anything. If there's any roofing issues with tiles, you can have a lot of water ingress issues later on. So just to factor that in, always check your roofs and make sure there's no water ingress. Here's the kitchen, obviously. So the unique thing about this is it's actually on the lower level. So on the entrance is the ground floor, of course. This one you actually have to go down, so it's on 3 floors as property. So you've got the ground floor, and then you've got the lower ground, and then you've got the first floor. So it's a bit of a unique property where typically you're gonna have ground floor, first floor, second floor, or ground and first floor. This one's got 3 floors. This one's downstairs, before I overcomplicate that. Here's the kitchen. Obviously, again, full rip out in that sense. Going to put a brand new kitchen in. The good thing is, again, the size. The size of the kitchen really helps. And it's just being practical. You know, we have a lot of floor space to utilize to put the new kitchen in, pretty much. So really happy about that for the end value side of things. It helps someone come in here. We're going to put a brand new kitchen in with new worktops, put new tiling in. For context, even the splashback. So on these, you can put tiles in, you can put splashbacks, and it depends how much you actually spend on the kitchen. Typically, when we're doing these, you can spend £3 on the kitchen, you can spend £8 on the kitchen, spend £5. It all comes down to what your exit is and how much you actually want to spend, obviously, in terms of what your budget is. Because at the end of the day, the budget is going to dictate the sort of exits you can have. And then the more capital you have, the better you can choose to do these sort of things. So for context, on this one, typically we'd have it where you've got, you know, tiles on the back end, you've got, you know, as many units as possible. And it's just a really nice finish on the back end. But if you want to go do it cheap, you can put just little plastic splashbacks. You can have very basic units. Also the supplier, the actual branded supplier of the kitchen as well. Like some units are designed to be very cheap and basic, purposely to be more affordable, and therefore the end value isn't as high. But then you could spend, again, £2 on extra on the kitchen, increase the value by 8, you know, or in theory, increase it by 8, as long as your comparables are strong. So yeah, just be mindful of the kitchen. There's no set way to do it. but your capital will dictate the sort of options you have available to exit. And if you can, if you're doing buy to let, you don't want to spend, 20 grand in the kitchen. You just need to get basic buy to let level. Longevity is really important with kitchens. So you don't want to buy dirt cheap ever. You want to make sure that you're going to get like middle ground, because with a buy to let, you need to be, affordable, but then you don't want to make it a palace, but you also want to make sure that once you spend the money, once you spend 3 grand or 4 grand on the kitchen, you don't want it to be breaking every single week because it's all cheap and breaking apart. But then you also don't want to spend, 10 grand on one, because there's no need, because your exit is buy to let, is to have a practical safe kitchen for tenants whilst increasing the value of the property. So hopefully that made sense. A bit of a ramble, but hopefully that gives some context as to kind of how to approach kitchens, because you can go for dirt cheap to save costs, but then it's not always a good idea. You want to make sure that you're really, your project, the idea with the kitchen reflects the exit, and then the available exits reflect the capital you have. Here's the lower ground living room. So again, downstairs, here's the lower ground. Again, so you don't really need to plaster the walls because they're already flat and skimmed anyway, but new flooring, rip it all up. Got new radiators going in by here. Fireplaces are really important. Without rambling too much on it, if you've got a normal fireplace, you can either make it a new fireplace or cap it off and block it off and then basically plaster over it to cover it up. It depends what your preference is as an investor. With this one, we're looking to kind of make it a fireplace, because then it's like a second living room down here, and we'll feed onto the conservatory, and how having a nice, lovely little fireplace down here will be quite nice in winter. So that's really cool. But yeah, fireplaces, you want to be careful, because you don't know if it is a fireplace down there. Like, for example, a lot in South Wales have back boilers to heat the whole property. So it's not necessarily a fireplace. So if you don't know what is actually under there, get someone to check it who knows what they're doing, who's maybe an experienced property investor, for example, because back boilers are very expensive if you keep them. So you want to be careful. Typically you want to rip those out. Don't want to bore you details on the back boiler side of things, but back boilers used to be like combi boilers in the back in the day, where they heat the whole property, but they're very expensive for both you as the investor and tenants to run. So yeah, before I ramble on forever, typically we'd rip those up and decide if we want to make a fireplace out of it or cap it off. So that's really cool. The rest of it is very self-explanatory, because we've got the full rewire, replacing the lights and switches. The wall is obviously going to be, this is all very horrible right now, going to get that taken off of the wallpaper. Pipework as well, get that covered up. You can get that boxed in. Basically make it a nice white walls, fresh flooring, and get all the horrible bits covered up. Even these bits, it's, just make it a bit nicer on the back end. So yeah, that's basically this room. There's not much more to comment, because you'll see the trend with rooms like this. These and bedrooms are very similar, where all you've got is walls, lighting, heating and flooring, and just how you approach that. So it's very, very simple. So USPs, unique selling points. They don't always have to be about selling. You can use USPs for flipping, but you can also use them for buy and hold, because tenants love USPs too. It depends on your exit. And again, when I say exit, I mean an exit can be buy and hold, can be flip, can be X, Y, and Z. Depends what you want to do on the exit of the project. In here, obviously conservatory, you got new electrics that fall off, which you can't see. The windows are a bit shot, but we can change panes easily. Plastic roofing is really important, because you want to basically, plastic roofing is something to really tread with caution on, purely from an EPC point of view. Typically we'd get these changed because the cost, you want to make sure the EPC is a C rating, bare minimum, absolute bare minimum. And having a plastic roof, even in the conservatories, you've got to be careful with it, because it's going to literally be, it's not going to be as thermally insulating as other options. So heavily consider those. Obviously you've got your glass windows and everything, but just the roofs, just be careful with them, especially from the EPC side. If you're uncertain, get an EPC assessor out to view the property during the refurb or before, just to get their point of view. But I would heavily consider getting those changed. Again, they look nice, but just from an EPC point of view, from an investment point of view, just be careful. And yeah, that's pretty much it for in here. Going to change that window, but you can't see that anyway. But again, change the flooring, make it nice, give it a clean. Got the garden. I'm not going to take you into the garden because it's just too awkward to film, to be honest with you. The really good thing about the garden, which I wish I could show you, is it has astroturf grass. It doesn't have real grass, it has astroturf grass. The reason this is really good is it's low maintenance. Tenants come to properties and they want to have a low maintenance property. They want it all to be fully renovated, really nice, and just having that little touch of, instead of having grass, having fake grass where you don't have to cut it, and it's more wear and tear, user friendly, let's say. User friendly, weird way to say it. Yeah, it's just a bit of a nicer thing to have, and it has more appeal to it. The problem is that typically it costs the investor to make it, if you want to change your garden that's grass into astro, it costs you money. So some investors want to pay the money, some don't. Depends on your approach and your budget. But if you're doing a full refurb anyway, which is what this client is doing, then it might be worth factoring it in. Luckily, they've already got astroturf. But again, it's a bit of a USP where you've got a conservatory here, you've got astroturf down there. There's a lot of boxes being ticked here, even though we've got a lot of work to do here. It's a full refurb, but those things are significant because I mean the conservatory in itself says a lot and helps the value of the property a lot. But having astroturf is one of those little things that stands out, and people just love low maintenance. Tenants love low maintenance, so just factor that into your costs if you want to do it. But that's about it really. Sizes of gardens as well are quite important. You can't tick every box, but just having a nice garden is just nicer for tenants. If you've got a little box area, it's different. If you've got a huge forest, it's high maintenance. So having a good little balance, I got to say South Wales is really good for that. A lot of gardens are a good size. They tend to have a long rectangular walkway, and it's not a huge garden. It requires a bit of work, but it's low maintenance once done, and that's an appeal in itself. So we've covered the refurb, we've covered the property, we've given the hints and tips. Now, how can you actually get involved in projects just like this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the description to the video on how to book in a call with us. The reason for booking in a call is a lot of people want to build a portfolio. They have capital. They may have, 80 to 100 grand or 200 grand, 300 grand. They want to invest it to build a portfolio. The problem is a lot of people reach out to us because they live in London, they live in Bournemouth, they live wherever, they live wherever in the world. And the problem is prices there are so expensive, it doesn't make sense for them to buy because they can buy one property and then all their capital's invested and the returns are really low, they don't know what they're doing. People reach out to us because they have capital. We're investing anyway. We help people do what we're doing anyway. Like I'm actively building my portfolio of projects just like this. So when people work with us, we're helping them do the same thing we're doing anyway, which means we're funding the properties, we're renovating it for them, we are help refinancing, and we're letting it for them. We're dealing with the whole full end-to-end on this, which is really cool. And it means that people can actually make money from property, not necessarily own it, but make money from property and benefit from it. And they don't even have to come to South Wales. Over 90% of our clients that we work with, and we help over 150 people a year do this, just to clarify, over 90% of our clients have either never been to South Wales or they don't live anywhere near it. They're nowhere near South Wales. So we've designed the whole business that we operate on so that people can invest from anywhere, and it really helps us help a lot of people. Because when you're buying a property, it's all email and WhatsApp, or maybe more email, so it's all online. We use WhatsApp a lot to communicate, so that it makes things easier. Our renovations are all WhatsApp as well. So everything is very communicated very well and clearly. And without going into too much detail, it allows us to help people better because the internet is the golden thing for us. That's really cool. So long story short, if you've got, let's say, at least 50 grand in the bank, bare minimum, to be honest with you, booking a call with us, link in the description. And the whole idea of the call is to find out where you are and how you can use property to build your wealth, build your portfolio to build your wealth, increase your cash flow, increase your equity and therefore your wealth. And a lot of people do this to kind of build wealth for their kids and their families and everything, and it works. It's exactly why I do it myself. and, you know, to help my family now and the future family as they come. And now we know we can help other people do the same thing. So that's portfolio building. And the good thing about booking a call is it's just a brainstorm, just to find out where you are and how we can help you move forward. So the investment numbers, the thing that people absolutely love, and the whole purpose of this, you want to make money, right? So for context, as a cash purchase, this project is set to be about 22% in the first year. So that's return on investment, return on capital employed, 22%, just as a cash buy. So that's really cool. So bought for £70,000, refurbishment is 35 grand. The actual quote is about 33 to 35 grand. Add a bit of contingency. So technically you want to have the refurb at about 38 grand to have a bit of a 3 to 4K contingency. Every renovation you ever do, I guarantee that's over 5 grand will always go over budget. If you quoted 35 grand, have 38. If you quoted 25, have 27, 28. Have at least a 5 to 10% buffer, bare minimum, because I guarantee you every project goes over. We've got about 25 live projects in the go right now, if not more, and every single one of them goes over. And it's not about not expecting it to go over, it's about having enough of a safety buffer to make sure you're protected when it does. So really, really important. So yeah, as a cash buy, this is 22%. The two ways you can work with this on these projects is on the exit is a flip. This is on the exit is a buy and hold rental property. This is great because you've got a property with equity and you've got the cash flow from a tenant, and that's great. And South Wales is expected to appreciate in property prices by over 20% in the next 5 years. So that means if it's worth 140 now, once renovated, then it should be worth, 160, etc., 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 right? It's going to appreciate in value. And the actual, you've got the cash flow from the tenants. We expect this one to make about £300 net per month, per calendar month. So great cash flow, great yield. And again, yield dictates cash flow, or is an indication of cash flow. So strong yields in South Wales is why people work with us. That's great. And the two ways to work with us on these sort of projects is either use them to build your own portfolio, or you invest with us and we build our portfolio and give you a fixed return on the back end. The two great things about this is if you're building a portfolio using these, you've got great appreciation expected, you've got great cash flow, and you can build your wealth from it. The problem with building a portfolio with this is you're relying on tenants to pay, and if you have void periods, that's a problem. If you're buying, if you've got 30k of equity on the back end, you're expecting the appreciation to actually come about, you're expecting appreciation to actually happen, and COVID 2.0 may happen, it may never happen, or it may not happen straight away in the next 5-10 years. So just the fact of these things this is why we've created the Invest With Us program in the past 12 months. We've got quite a few clients already doing this at the moment. Basically, instead of building your own portfolio, what you do is you give us the money. You work with us to build our portfolio. We give you a fixed return. And if you're making, for example, 22% returns on these as a cash buy, if you have a void period, that suddenly becomes 11-12%. And the good and bad thing about that is, the bad thing is, if you've got void periods, your return's less, about 12%, if you have vacancy periods and everything. So what we've created in the past 12 months, and what a lot of our clients are doing at the moment, is they're actually investing with us, and we give returns between about 8 to 10%, and it means that you've got a fixed return of a return investment rather than relying on the appreciation side. So these are great, don't get me wrong, and this is our bread and butter. I invest heavily in these myself because the returns can be so significant, and the whole idea of building a portfolio is that you build a portfolio of 10 plus properties so that if you get void periods in 1 or 2 of them, at least the rest of them cover your profits and your equity and appreciation. So building a portfolio is amazing, but you've got to factor in worst case scenario as well. And a lot of people have risk factors, risk appetites. And I always recommend if you've got a low risk appetite, go with our fixed loan interest offer, because it means that you can make solid actual fixed returns on your money, but then you don't have to rely on any tenants or have the stress of all that kind of stuff. A lot of people want to make money from property, but don't actually always want to take on the risk of it. And property investing is one of the lowest risk investments you can make, and yet there is a risk associated with it. So yeah, just analyze the two ways of doing this. Either build a portfolio for yourself and we help you do that, or you invest with us, which means that it avoids any hassle, any tenant issues, and it means that you can guarantee your actual returns and make your money. And typically the returns, like I said, 8 to 10%, you're talking about triple what you get in the bank. I think banks are like 3 to 4%. So we've tried to make this as lucrative as possible, whilst also making sure we can provide the actual fixed return. And we give a personal guarantee on every single interest as well. So we're personally guaranteeing against all of our portfolio that we will pay you back on that cent. So if anyone wants that as well, you book it in as a call in the same way. So if either way is of interest to you and you want to basically make your money work and you want to make money from property, either way, book in a call with us, links in the description, and also subscribe to the subscribe to the channel, because I document almost every project we do. Can't do them all because we have a lot of them on the go, but I try to document most of them. This video is of course before the refurb starts. We try to make a refurb video after as well. So yeah, at least you have context before and after as to what we do, pretty much. So hope everyone has a great year. Really looking forward to kind of getting a refurb done for this one. And be sure to keep watching the channel, subscribe and like the video. If you've got any burning questions, put them in the comments because I can answer them that way as well. Happy to answer everything and everything that's needed. And hope everyone has a great day.